Islamic parties aren't just in the Middle East anymore. Belgium, the country in Europe, is scheduled to hold elections in just a few months. There's a rising star in the political landscape there. It's called the Islam Party. Its stated purpose is to implement Sharia and transform Belgium into an Islamic state. Members of the Islam Party won 2 races in 2012. The party is hoping to expand its success this round. Katie Hopkins writes for Rebel Media. She has traveled to the town of Molenbeek. Lots of jihadis there. You may remember it because it was the place the 2015 Paris terrorists plotted their attack. She interviewed the town's mayor, who seemed to regard its ties to jihad as a marginal issue at best. Watch.
Were you told that Salah Abdel Salah was a suspected terrorist in Molenbeek? Were you given that list? Were you given that information in October 2016, 15?
Yes. Well, we had a list, but this list was known. I just had a list of a few names. Well, I would say more than 30 names, but it was not the job of the local police to follow those people.
Not my job, she said. Katie Hopkins joins us tonight. Katie, that's unbelievable. Are we misreading that because of the language barrier? Did the mayor just say it's not her job to keep track of dangerous people in her community?
Absolutely. She's the mayor of Molenbeek. She's been there for about 6 years or so now. She was given the name and the location. He ran a bar in the town of the coordinator of the Paris attacks, where 130 were killed, 415 were maimed. And when I said to her, you had that list, you had his name, you did nothing, she said, it's not my job. It was not my job to do something. And of course, this is part of the problem in the jihadi capital of Europe, where I've just spent 3 days, is that politicians turn a blind eye because they are dependent on the voters who are Muslim and they want their support.
So it's a demographic thing. I mean, at a certain point, you become captive to the people who are changing your society.
That's absolutely right. You know, what I've just seen, I've spent 3 days walking the streets of Molenbeek. It's known as a place that other reporters won't go because it's 80% Muslim. There's a lot of Sunnis there, a lot of Salafists, a lot of Shiites, very hardcore kind of religious individuals. But you've got a triumvirate, the perfect storm of a lot of unauthorized mosques, particularly controlled by Iran, and money flowing in. You've got one type of population, 80% Moroccan heritage Muslims. And then you've got politicians and police who, I'm told by informers, are taking backhanders, who are happy to turn a blind eye. And that's why you've got terror being plotted in Belgium. But that terror then, of course, drives 2 hours away to destroy people in capital cities like London here, or indeed Paris. And bear in mind, Ramadan is just around the corner. What
do the rest of Belgium think of this? Ordinary Belgians, are they for this?
Yeah. It's so interesting. Obviously, there's a great deal of white flight. I walk through, I think you have images and stills there, the marketplace. I was the only woman with my head uncovered. Everybody there is in a burqa. The Islam Party that are putting up 28 candidates in September, they want segregated transport, segregated living, and they want halal everywhere and Sharia. And I can see it coming. So there's a massive white flight. And academics and teachers and certain individuals will tell me their truths. They will tell me there are unauthorized mosques, that the teachers are giving up hope, that people want to move out, but they don't want to be seen to be saying that because it goes against the liberal narrative. But really, these areas still exist. There's a massive mosque there, run by Saudi. It was given a 99-year free lease on a massive building in Belgium, as long as they could bring in extremist imams to have access to these migrants. And then we wonder why we end up living with the jihadis next door.
Is this a permanent situation? Are these people residents, citizens of Belgium? I mean, is it temporary?
No, it's not temporary at all. They have citizenship. 95,000 people live in Molenbeek. About 85% of them are Moroccan heritage, but they are French nationals, often Belgian born. But what's so interesting, in talking to a teacher today who didn't want to be on record, she was saying that her teaching colleagues find that no matter what, how many generations in they are, 3 generations in now, they always have one foot still in Morocco. And that's very much the point that she made. Those old Islamic and Muslim traditions matter more than any European heritage they may have.
Amazing. Not the Belgium most of us think of. Katie Hopkins, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Tucker.
All right, so I suspect you've got a lot to say about this. Let's go with what's going on down there in at the border right now with the caravan. What's your take on the caravan and what the Trump administration is doing about it?
Well, I wish Trump would just stay on the road like he was in campaign mode again, because he gets instant feedback from the crowd, and that's when he says really popular things that get Republicans elected and could possibly defend against a blue wave. But then he gets back to Washington, and he's not doing anything about the caravan. I mean, he sent out a tweet a few weeks ago saying, "Oh, don't worry. Thanks, Mexican government has stopped the caravan." And then the Daily Mail goes to Mexico and says, "No, we haven't stopped the caravan. We're giving them 30-day passes, 20-day passes to make sure that they can make it to America." They're not all traveling with the caravan anymore, but they're spreading out so they can go to different access points. They are 100% still coming. All they have to do is step across the border. Oh, and they have lots of lawyers from countries without borders advising them. This is a political attack on our nation by a political group that doesn't believe nations should have borders. They're advised, they're told what to say. They step across the border, they say asylum, and that's it. They're going to get shipped in, and we'll get another round of MS-13 and another round of MS-13. I mean, Trump has a lot of power. Yeah. He was the one who was elected. It's Republicans and Congress that the American people hate. If he wants Congress to pass this law, it wouldn't be very hard. Maybe if he spent a little more time on making America great again and not working on making South Korea and China great again, he could get back to pressuring Congress to do something for the American people. And that would be pass a law saying you don't just get to step in and say, "I'm claiming asylum," and then get a bus and a box lunch into America.
And then there's also the point about the wall. I mean, these pictures, I can't think of anything that's a more direct argument for what he was saying all along, which you know doesn't seem to be happening.
No, and I mean, there's a reason that became the chant. If you go back and look at his famous, Mexican rapist speech announcing his candidacy, he talks about a lot of things. He threw out tax cuts, Obamacare, the military, blah, blah, blah. It was from going out and giving these speeches and having, a 10,000 person focus group every day of the campaign that he saw which lines were the popular ones. Well, there's a reason that the American people, unlike the donors, wanted a wall. A wall is the only thing that will work. You don't check with the people whose jobs are going to be made obsolete to find out if they need a wall. No, we just need drones and more border police. No, we want a wall for a reason, to stop the heroin, to stop the caravans, and he has 100% power to build a wall. He's the commander-in-chief. His duty is, his number one duty is to protect the borders. It's not to resolve North and South Korea's, dispute. That's not our problem. North Korea is China's problem. The Syria is Europe and France's problem. Mexico is our problem. So, I mean, are European newspapers consumed with what's going to happen with Mexico and the caravan? Are Chinese and South Korean newspapers worried about illegal immigrants coming into America and draining our people dry? No, they aren't. Why are we worried about their problems? That was the whole point of Make America Great Again.
You're very you are the true purist. I love it. So listen, you mentioned jobs earlier. You noticed something in the president's rally last night that was very interesting. Hasn't got picked up that much. Let's play it, and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
And for the farmers, okay, it's going to get good. And we're going to let your guest workers come in, because we're going to have strong borders, but we have to have your workers come in. The unemployment picture is so good, it's so strong, that we have to let people come in. They're going to be guest workers. They're going to come in. They're going to work on your farms. We're going to have the H-2Bs come in. We're going to have a lot of things happening, but then they have to go out. Then they have to go out.
So what's that about?
Well, please first notice that it's dead silence through that entire blather until he gets to, and then they're going to have to go out. That's why I want him giving speeches nonstop so he can get this feedback. I don't know what this is about. You tell me, because the way I remember it, we did not elect Jeb Bush. I was completely sure we elected Donald Trump. Where he gets this nonsense, and the H-2B visas he's talking about are absolutely the worst you could possibly come up with. They aren't farm workers, and by the way, the farmers can build robots. I don't know if you've ever used an ATM, but maybe it's time for farmers to move into the 20th century. Leaving that aside, that's not what H-2B visas are. It's for working at places like Mar-a-Lago, working at in entertainment and resorts and restaurants and construction. The most important jobs, I would add, now that he and Kanye are bonding, most important jobs for African Americans. I mean, he gave that beautiful speech in Milwaukee saying to African Americans, what have the Democrats given you? Give us a chance. This is how you would give African Americans and, all working class Americans a chance. They didn't ask for a tax cut. They asked for jobs. These are jobs. And he's standing up at a rally promising to bring in H-2B workers. That was the whole Disney thing. Remember, that was a big deal during the debate. It hurt Marco Rubio.
Yes.
And it's going to hurt Trump.
Totally agree.
I mean, I hear these speeches, and all I can see is a huge blue